Notice how some people disappear and suddenly everyone wants them? That's not mystery. That's psychological withdrawal. When someone is always available, their value feels stable, predictable, expected. The brain categorizes them as safe, normal, and safe things don't demand attention. But the moment availability drops, attention spikes. Not because they became better, not because they changed, but because uncertainty was introduced. The human mind hates gaps. When something vanishes without explanation, the brain rushes to fill the void. It assigns importance, meaning, even desire, to what isn't fully accessible. That's why silence feels loud. That's why absence creates curiosity. That's why attention follows what it can't have completely. You weren't ignored before. You were too accessible. This isn't romance. It isn't luck. It's conditioning. The same principle shapes social media trends, friendships, status hierarchies, even professional influence. Remove access and perception shifts instantly. People begin to notice nuances they ignored before. Small gestures suddenly carry weight. Every interaction becomes amplified because the mind is filling in the gaps left by absence. Predictability diminishes attention. Mystery elevates it. That's the cruel truth of influence. When someone is always present, their value is assumed, unnoticed, taken for granted. The human brain, wired to notice anomalies, craves deviation from routine. Withdraw presence just slightly, and the mind begins to hunt for significance, turning small details into perceived importance. That's why subtle withdrawal works better than dominance or force. It doesn't demand attention. It allows the mind to generate it itself. Observe this in real life. People who are constantly reachable, always responding, always present, are rarely the ones admired, envied, or desired. But the person who disappears briefly, who speaks less than expected, who leaves gaps for perception to fill, suddenly commands attention. Messages pile up, thoughts turn toward them, curiosity spikes. Even the smallest gesture from them now carries extraordinary weight. The brain inflates the significance of absence. This principle isn't limited to relationships. It runs through social media, professional networks, and status games. Influencers who post less, who step back occasionally, create more engagement. Leaders who pause, who speak sparingly, are respected more than those who constantly assert themselves. Attention follows mystery. Power lives in restraint. Influence grows quietly when presence is withdrawn. The mechanism works because of how the human mind reacts to uncertainty. Gaps force focus. The unknown triggers projection, and projection inflates importance. People don't consciously think about it. They feel it. Desire, curiosity, even obsession forms not from action, but from the absence of it. This is why some individuals appear magnetic without trying. It isn't luck or charm. It is deliberate control over perception through strategic withdrawal. Yet there is a fine line. Too much absence and people forget you. Too little, and your value is diluted by overexposure. The balance is delicate. Controlled withdrawal is an art. Be present enough to stay relevant, absent enough to create intrigue, and let others' minds do the work. The moment someone begins to chase, wonder, or reflect on what's missing, influence shifts. The power is quiet, subtle, invisible, but absolute. Consider how this plays out in storytelling and fiction. Characters like Aizen in Bleach, who rarely reveal intentions, manipulate perceptions effortlessly. Light Yagami in Death Note steps back strategically, letting others act while the tension he creates amplifies his control. Johann Liebert in Monster operates almost entirely in absence. People react to him without him needing to act overtly. Even in everyday life, someone who stops responding briefly suddenly commands attention. The same principles govern attention, curiosity, and perceived value everywhere. This principle feels unfair because it is invisible. You give power to people without realizing it. The moment you understand it, the game changes. You see the mechanics behind attention, desire, and influence. Absence does not simply remove presence. It rewires perception. Every mind begins to assign meaning, and every perception is amplified by what isn't there. Understanding this gives you control. You can use it, protect against it, or simply observe it to avoid manipulation. Absence elevates, but only when calibrated. It is not about neglect or avoidance. It is strategic, precise, and intentional. The mind reacts naturally to gaps. The art lies in letting it. People fill the void with importance. They overthink, project, anticipate. And once the pattern is understood, it stops controlling you. Awareness neutralizes its subtle pull. You begin to choose which absences matter, when to withdraw, and when to engage. Value is never declared. It is inferred. And absence forces inference like nothing else. It is the unseen lever of influence, the quiet mechanism that governs attention and perception. Those who master it don't chase attention. They create conditions in which attention finds them. They do not prove worth. They let the mind create it. Influence lives in the gaps, in the pauses, in the subtle retreats, in the calculated silences. If you want to fully understand why this works, how the mind reacts to withdrawal, and how to wield it or defend against it in your own life, watch the full breakdown in the long video. Follow DarkMind Academy, study the patterns they never teach, and once you see the mechanism, it stops working on you. Because in the quiet of absence, power is absolute.